Okay, who do we got online? I remember you said
Mason.
Mason. Why don't you change your name to your first name on there just so that I've got that right off the top of my head. All right. So, does anybody have any questions before we begin? Yes.
So I have macro and my thing's not there for that's due today. The tutorial.
Did you say macro? Or what did you say?
Yeah, I had macro in the fall.
Oh, you had macro.
Yeah. So that was good.
Okay, why don't you see me after class?
Okay.
Let's take a look. Okay, anybody else? Yeah, when is our first homework assignment due? Tonight. And it is just the getting started to know the program, learn how to graph stuff. There's a little bit of a math deal. So it's really just to kind of wet your feet on the system, getting to know the system that we're going to be using extensively for your homework and other things. And then your other homework that's due Saturday is loaded on there too. So you can get in and I always encourage you to start working on it early, but it's due Saturday. If you're late with your homework, 5 minutes late is a 20% penalty. 20% penalty. So whether you're 5 minutes late or 5 days late, my penalty is 20%. So it's due midnight on Saturday, so make sure you get in and get those done. And then your test is Sunday, so hopefully that'll give you enough time. But frankly, if you miss 20% on some of the homework or something, it's not going to kill your grade. There's quite a bit of those homework points, but they're the gimme points, right? So the tests and everything's going to be the harder points. So you should try to get those easy points, really try to be disciplined about getting those done on time on Saturday. So any questions there? All right, so today, I wanted to get this going right away too. So this is our attendance sheet. So I'm gonna have you put your initials here in column 1. And so find your name, it's alphabetical by last name, and then just kind of circulate this around the room. And hopefully it'll eventually end up at the front, and we'll be all done with that business. All right. So today I'm going to start in on just some other concepts that help round out both chapters 1 and 2 really, and look at stuff a little bit more closely with incentives. So economics is about everything dealing with people and decision making. That's really what it's about. What was the definition of economics that I gave you that I'd like you to think about economics that way? Go ahead, Jay.
It was the study of trying to satisfy limited wants with limited resources.
With limited resources. Good, good. And so you're going to hear the word scarcity talked about. I haven't really used that word, but scarcity is the idea that we're getting at, kind of combining the definition that I gave you. The idea of scarcity is that goods, let's just say goods and services, which I'll kind of be affectionately calling G&S here. Goods and services are scarce because the desire for them far outstrips their availability. And part of the reason that's true is that we need to convert limited resources into scarce goods and services. That's kind of link that we're trying to make here in the early chapters. So we've got these limited resources. What are the 4 resources? Basically, the categories we got them. Go. Labor. Land. Somebody in the back. Labor, land. Shout them out.
Resources.
Labor, land. Natural resources is land. So land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Good. I heard a couple both come out about the same time. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. And so those things aren't the things that make us happy, right? Beer, chicken wings, Netflix, haircuts, whatever. All of that stuff are the things that kind of give us happiness, not so much a raw piece of land. Now, it's possible that we might get benefit from a piece of land in various ways. Maybe we hunt it or some other thing, or just look at it. But until we do something with that land, like if we talk about farming the land, now all of a sudden we're doing this conversion process. And that's really the production process, right? So this thing that I'm saying here, we need to convert these limited resources, that is really at the heart of economics, and that is doing production. Production is putting those resources to work to turn them into things that we want. Okay, so notice that scarcity is not poverty. So let's just put a little note here. Scarcity is not poverty. By looking at what I just gave you for scarcity, tell me the difference between scarcity and poverty. Somebody will show a hand, whoever wants to take a stab at that. That's probably worth an extra credit point. How would you describe poverty? Let me come over here. I saw a black jacket person there first. I kind of, for some reason, want to throw out an AJ or something, but I don't think that's right.
It's Kalen.
Kalen. Okay.
Poverty is a subjective concept, and it's defined by a level of income.
Okay. Good. What do you mean by subjective concept? Let me push you a little bit since I gave you an extra credit point on this one. You're doing good so far. You got the point. What do you mean by subject? You said poverty is a subjective concept.
There's no opinion. It's not opinion-based.
It's not opinion-based, or it is opinion-based? What's the one that's not opinion-based? We got objective and subjective is what we're teasing out, by the way. If you have multiple choice problems, are those objective problems or subjective problems when you're taking a test? If you do a short answer or an essay, you write a paper, what is your grade subject to? What is your grade subject to when you write a paper or you do a short answer question? What are you subject to in terms of how you get your grade? What is the determining factor of your grade on an essay, a paper, or a short answer problem? Yeah.
How will you explain your answer?
How will you explain your answer? Yes, but I'm looking for how do you get your grade? Who does your grade? The teacher. Does the teacher's opinion sometimes matter a little bit, maybe, with papers and short answer problems?
It can.
It can, right? So it could be a little more subjective. Now, what do we mean by objective? Multiple choice problem. A, B, C, D. You select C. Is the teacher's opinion infused into your answer at all of whether you got it right or wrong? No. If the answer was C, you got it right. If you picked B, you got it wrong, right? So it's very objective in terms of what the outcome's going to be. All right, so now back to your poverty thing. Poverty, is it objective or subjective? In other words, how does it get determined? So this is kind of a loaded question, by the way. I don't expect any of you to kind of give a super whiz bang, but are there happy people who would be considered in poverty?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So poverty can be subjective in terms of, do you have enough money to live? You're like, oh yeah, I got plenty. I got my job. I make $25,000 a year. I'm a loner, and I love living in my little cabin, and I go fishing, and I don't need more than $25,000 a year. I'm totally content. I can eat, I fish, right? So we can have people that are relatively happy even at a fairly low income. So that can be a subjective connection between the two. Now the government comes in and possibly says, if you make less than $13,000 a year, then we consider you in poverty. And now we have an objective measure, but it was set by the government to say maybe whether you get benefits or something, right? The $13,000 a year, you're in poverty. But the poverty level is kind of something that can be, it's an opinion, and it could change over time, right? So depending on how it comes about. So scarcity is not poverty. Poverty might be something that somebody's in, but we are always going to have scarcity, right? With the unlimited wants and the limited resources. So I just want to make sure we stay clear between scarcity and poverty. Poverty is usually defined as some sort of lack of material goods and services, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it boils down to. I don't have enough food to eat, right? There's a hunger issue or something. I don't have a roof over my head. Those are all material things. So it's a lack of material things for a particular person, whereas scarcity is saying a lack of things for everybody, right? Even the person that makes the highest income out there still confronts scarcity every day. So it's a bigger issue. And so in other words, I have some job security because economics never goes away. Economics is about dealing with scarcity. So even if we more or less come close to minimizing poverty to a very, very little level, and the only people that are really in poverty are the drug abusers and people with mental illness and other things, right? The material aspect's taken care of, but relational things may never go away, right? And drug abuse may never go away, but maybe we kind of have a magic pill that can undo that stuff and we keep things good. But so that type of poverty may never go, but the lack of material goods and services might be able to be minimized. Okay, questions or comments there? All right, let's see what else here. Okay, so scarcity. So kind of number 2 here. I don't know if it's note number 2. Let's see. Let's say this is number 1. This is concept number 2. Scarcity necessitates rationing. Rationing. There's kind of a weird word. What's the first thing that comes to mind with rations? Maybe you've seen some movies and you got your rations. What does it mean to ration something? Give me your name again. Jensen.
Using it like an allotted time.
Okay, an allotted time.
Trying to make it stretch farther.
Something that make your food stretch further. So for me anyway, when troops are at war, you get your rations, right? Everybody gets the same amount of rations, and that might be a sandwich and a cup of soup and a toaster fruit and roll-up thing or whatever. What's that thing? That pastry? Pop-Tart. Thank you. The Pop-Tart. That's in the rations that some of the stuff I use when we go camping. Jake.
So like for us, like when I was in the military, was that our last week of boot camp is called like our crucible, right? It's like the last thing we had to do before right before we come from the Marine. So like we had to do that, and I had 3 MREs that lasted me 52 hours.
Okay, so you had to you had to decide when and what time, but
What
you knew
time?
what you had.
Yeah,
Right.
and I had everything to like do on my own, so like I
Yep.
had to make that stretch.
Okay, so now something that you guys might not have thought about is how the pricing system rations things for society. So markets of voluntary buyers and sellers create prices that ration scarce goods and services. So prices end up being a rationing mechanism. We usually don't think about it that way, but you've got a certain amount of money in your wallet or in your checking account or your paycheck or whatever you want to think about, And now you have the choice, similar to Jay deciding on, should I eat that sandwich today or wait a couple hours? Should I eat the Pop-Tart now? Or should I, we have a fixed amount of money in our checking account or in our wallet that we now can go spend on goods. Those goods are scarce and our money is limited, and so now the prices help ration who gets what. But you still have some power within your paycheck, right? So if you have $100, you can go buy an $80 pair of pants, but that gives you 20 left over to spend on other things, right? And so you might choose to, I only got $100 this week, maybe I'm going to spend it on some other things, right? So it's a rationing mechanism, kind of a bizarre way to start thinking about going to the store. All right, so other ways that things get rationed, so this will be, let's say, number one. Number two, first come, first serve. First come, first serve is a rationing mechanism. So when we do first come, first serve, what is the nature? What a lot of times is the good priced? Is it free? What happens when we have first come, first serve basis? Yeah. Give me your name one time. Jordan.
Discounts. Sometimes free food.
Okay, like free food. And we have a limited amount of food, right? And so how are we going to do it? I don't have a price on the food now. So first come, first serve. You get into line first, and that's how we're going to ration it out. It's not somebody who's got the highest bidder, where I bid $10, I bid $12, right? We could do an auction process, again, letting the pricing mechanism ration out the goods, but rather going to first come, first serve. Okay, I see a phone out. So some of you have joined the class late, but are phones allowed in class? No, what's your name? Robert. Were you here for the first 2 days or on Monday? All right, I'm going to cut you 1 day of slack as my example since we had some people gone. So go ahead and shut it off. Go ahead and shut it off. You have to pull out a pen and paper. Sorry. Yeah. Can you borrow a piece of paper for Robert here? How about a pen? You got a pen? So sorry, that's just one of my things. There's good research that shows it's difficult. So if you could put your phone away too. So all the phones need to be off the desk. Off the desk. You got a pen or you need one? You need one. Let me see what I've got up here. Let's see, I might need that one. I only got one. Can somebody borrow a pen or pencil for Robert? Thank you. All right, so yeah, go ahead and tuck that, turn it off, put it in your pocket. Not in the crotch region, like it's got to be in the pocket or in the backpack is how we do things here, because there's good research that shows you're going to learn a lot more that way. And I understand that it's a negative thing. You take your notes that way, I get it. So yeah, but in here we're going to do it a little bit different. So, all right. So now, first come, first serve. What else could we do? How else do goods get distributed if it's not first come, first serve? What else might the owners of the food do? You own the food. You could do first come, first serve. But if you're a self-interested person, remember that little picture we did last time with the you in the middle, family, state, da-da-da. You've got a limited amount of food. Who might you want to give it to first?
The highest bidder.
Highest bidder. That would be kind of coming back to the market thing. So that would be this choice. How else might it get done if we don't have first come, first serve? People who own the goods, what else might they do? Thinking about this, I think. You're in the middle, you got your friends and family out here, and then you got other people in your city and your state. Who might you want to get the food first? Less fortunate, you could. You'd have to come up with some sort of mechanism of figuring out who's less fortunate, are they faking it or not, right? But yeah, that would be one way. So you could have some sort of mechanism. Let me go ahead and add that one here. So let's go less fortunate first. So then the big question would be how to measure this. All of a sudden, it becomes a little difficult if you're just trying to give away some food, having a kind of a food shelf, food pantry type thing. How do we measure that? I don't work. I don't have a paycheck. Does that count as being less fortunate? Or do you have access to other means, right? And all of a sudden you have to have an interview process with each person that comes before you. You have to have a 5-minute interview, learn about them, and see if they're really less fortunate. So that would be something like people looking for handouts on the street, right? Do we know that they're really going to go use it for food, or are they going to use it for alcohol and drugs? Well, sit down and talk to them. You might be able to determine that or get a good read on it. They might be really good liars too, so that's still a little questionable. Okay, so that's not the one I was thinking about, so that's worth an extra credit point, Jay. That is not the one I was thinking about. That's kind of a good out-of-the-box thinking. What's your last name again? Franklin? Caitlin, what's your last name? Kim? Kim, with a K, okay. What else might the person who owns the food want to do? Thinking about everybody's hungry around us. I've got my friends and family right here, my next door neighbor, and then I got other people in the community. I've got people 30 miles away. Who might I want to give the food to? Let me go back there. Yeah, give me your name. Javion. Javion?
Yeah,
Friends and family, right? So you could play favorites, right? Do you think politicians ever do that? When they've got money to dish out, do they hand it to their golf buddies or something? Yeah, right? So that's another rationing mechanism, is you can do favoritism. So give to friends, and we're going to use this word a little bit, cronies. Your cronies is kind of an old-fashioned word. So we call this cronyism when we talk about maybe it happening with government, but it can be big business. It doesn't have to be government. But basically, distributing things this way rather than for the market. So in other words, in order to get the good, you have to be in good with the owner of the resources, right? Whereas here, if you've got the money, if you're the highest bidder, you get it. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's got equal opportunity to get that good. But here, we might come down to favoritism. All right, so these are all rationing mechanisms. And, markets, all of them have an element of where it might not be fair. Like, what's the best way to do it, right? So maybe the poor have a more difficult time with a pricing system in some cases. First come, first serve. The people who are working their tail off have a lot harder time of getting in line first than the people who don't have a job. So that's not really fair necessarily if you're in need of something, or however we're going to get it as first come, first serve. It's a little twisted that way perhaps. The less fortunate first. I'd say the biggest drawback, I think that's good with well intentions, but the biggest drawback is the measuring aspect that I already highlighted. Like, that would be difficult to do. It kind of raises what economists call transaction cost. So to determine who's that. And then favoritism, having a system that way is the way it was for 2004, well, since the dawn of time really. The kings and queens owned the land, and whoever was goody-goody and nicey-nicey king and queen buddies, they are the ones that got the cuts. And so that doesn't seem like a very fair system as well. All right, so all that said, there's a lot of benefits here to the market system. With the market system, we can have impersonal trades, which is kind of nice. Like, we don't have to know all the people that we're helping. We kind of talked about that before. Whereas here, it's kind of what you know. Here, it's kind of how you get in line and whatnot. All right, so questions or comments there on thinking about the market system as a rationing mechanism? All right. We talked about competition last time. That was the thing that was going to keep the butcher in check, right? It is not the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, the baker from which we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own self-interest, Well, what keeps the butcher from raising the price of meat? The threat of somebody else entering the market and competing, or it'll eventually come down. So competition is, so this is item, I'm on big item number 2, so now I'm on big item number 3. Competition is a natural outgrowth. A natural outgrowth of the need to ration goods. Competition is a natural outgrowth. It's going to come about no matter what. If we have unlimited wants, people are going to figure out ways to try to get what they want through legal means or possibly illegal means. But I want to point out that competition arises with all of these things, right? So in markets, of course, with outbidding somebody else or the supply of the goods, first come, first serve, I'm going to get up really early, right? Because I know somebody else is going to get there. I can't wait till 9 a.m. when they open. I'm going to get there at 7 a.m. And then somebody else is thinking, I can be there at 6 a.m. That's competition, right? So competition to get the goods is kind of causing our result of possibly a long line outside. The less fortunate first, same thing. I have the worst story of all, right? If we have limited resources and goods are scarce, then there's only going to be X amount to go around. So you're going to have to be maybe good at explaining your story. You're going to have a little bit of competition come out there. Favoritism, competing to who can impress the person with the goods the most, right? So all competition arises out of all of this. That's just part of the system. And so competition is healthy in keeping markets fair, is what we did last time of how the butcher was kept in check. So note, competition helps outcomes and prices to be fair. Now that's a loaded word, fair. What does that mean? Well,
Equality.
Equality, good, yeah. So fair, and let's go ahead and put your equality in there. I want to put, actually it's not equality, sorry, but it's very close to that, equity. Instead of equality would mean possibly equal outcomes, right? And so equity is a little bit different. And so do you have the opportunities to compete in there and do what's best for yourself to get the outcomes that you would like? And specifically here, what we talked about yesterday was prices. So is it a fair price if meat is going for $12 a pound? Well, if there's lots of competition, the answer is probably yes. Like we can stand back from the market and say, oh, it's $12 a pound? Well, that seems kind of high, but I guess there's 5 people supplying meat in the city. So if it was obnoxiously high, then somebody would be offering it lower, right? So they must be earning a profit because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it, but it's a normal profit, right? It's maybe a fair profit. Okay, questions or comments there? All right, so we've got 8 guideposts to economic thinking. These are some of the best top principles of economics that we want to keep in mind. This is 8 things that are covered in chapter 1, and we will touch back on the whole time. So number 1, so let's say 8 things about economic thinking. Eight things about economic thinking. Number 1, the use of scarce resources to produce a good is always costly. So the use of resources to produce a good or service is always costly. So why can't we have free health care? Well, there's a cost to it, right? There's always going to be a cost that has to be borne somewhere by someone. And so economists have this old saying, there is no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody offers you free lunch, well, we all know it's not really free. There was a cost somebody paid somewhere. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Number 2, individuals are purposeful and intentional. So individuals choose purposefully. And therefore economize. So when we talk about economize in economics class, it's a cost-benefit analysis. So what we're trying to do is gain specific benefit at least possible cost. I want to do this because it's going to make me happy. I have a limited income or limited resources, and so I'm going to seek the least possible cost. Now, do people get sloppy with that sometimes? Sure, right? We all make mistakes, we get sloppy. But on average, the average person, if we look at a group of people, are going to act this way. All right, number 3, incentives matter. Incentives matter. We're going to go to things, do things. Our behavior can change maybe depending on other incentives. Give me an example of incentives. Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, bonus to stay, or in today's labor market, a sign-on bonus. How many of you have seen start working today, $500 in your pocket, right? That doesn't happen a lot of times in the labor market. Having extra incentives beyond the hourly pay, some other frills, people are it's going to make the overall thing that you want to do more attractive. Any other thoughts on incentives matter? Yeah, in the back. And I'm sorry, give me your name again. Is it? Huh? Sierra. Sienna, thank you. I need to just walk back there now. My old ears are getting a little tough. Sienna, what?
I say benefits.
Benefits, like, give me an example. Like your health care, your number of days off, all of that stuff. Good. So lots of things. Does Ottawa University give you incentives for some of your behavior ever? Or coming here, or Justice?
A lot of professors give you points for attendance, so that's kind of
Okay, so Justice was saying some of the professors give attendance points, right? I give my little extra credit point if I want to throw out some additional incentive to get you guys to think of something cool. So, all right, so incentives matter. So we follow incentives. Good. Number 4. Economic reasoning. Oh, by the way, I encourage you, I said this on the first day, but some people have joined late because of COVID and other things, and so remember that your midterm and final are short answer problems, and they will mostly be drawn from stuff we did in class. So a good set of notes with whatever I write on the board, I encourage you to write, and that'll be something that you can draw on to do well on the midterm and the final especially, but it's going to help with other things in class with MindTap having those notes as well.
I got a question though.
Sure. What's your name?
Deontay.
Deontay?
Yeah. The blackboard, do you put the notes and stuff in there?
What's that?
Do you put the notes in the blackboard?
No.
No.
Nope. So this is all. So I have a loose set of notes that I followed for 30. I've been doing this for 30 years, so I kind of have some stuff, but sometimes I come up with something new and different examples. So I don't have a stock set of things that I
What's up
do.
with this video that you make?
This video, oh, this is the recording. Yeah, that'll get published. Yeah. Yep.
You do most.
Yeah, the recording gets posted. Sorry, yeah, I didn't understand that. I thought you meant my handwritten notes. So here's the thing, that's why I kind of mentioned to Robert too. The research shows that if you actually use a pen and pencil as opposed to like relying on going back to the recording, you're going to retain stuff a lot better than even typing. They've shown typing's a little bit better than just watching a recording, but watching the recording, there's not much retention that goes on. So that's kind of just a backup plan for you to kind of assist with other things. Yeah. Give it a try. I believe in freedom, so yeah, you go for it. All right, economic reasoning. So economic reasoning focuses on the impact. Focuses in on the impact of marginal changes. All right, you're going to get sick of hearing this word marginal, so underline that one. Marginal changes. So, starting from some sort of status quo, you make a change. So, kind of the key part here, there is always status quo. What do I mean by status quo? What is status quo? Yeah, give me your name.
No.
What?
No.
No.
The norm.
The norm. Okay, it could be the norm. That's one way to describe it. A little more detail though. Yeah, so you're right. I'd say the norm is a good way to start off with that. Yeah, Jordan?
Popularity.
Popularity? No, not with the status quo. So it could be popular, it could be something unpopular. So there could be something that's unpopular that is currently the status quo. So the norm was a good start with Noah there. Yeah, Jay?
The affairs of like your political reasoning or social reasoning, I guess you could say.
It would be the way you are today with maybe political reasoning or otherwise, right? The way you are. Status quo is just today. Like what is happening now? What is the current status, right? The current state of affairs, if you want to think of it that is what the status quo is. So norm was kind of a good way. It's like, well, this is normal. This is what we do, right? It's what we've been doing. We've been doing it this way every year. So it is the status quo, the norm. So Noah's norm was a good start to that. So there's always some status quo. Let's put parentheses like existing condition as is. And it could be dynamic that it's been happening over time, but what is the existing condition? And so marginal analysis is to say, let's change the existing condition. Let's make one movement, one change. So that's what economic reasoning is going to do. Is it's first important to establish the status quo and evaluate a small change to status quo. And I got to be careful when I use the word small. I mean, it could be a change that is really kind of a big change. So small. The reason I use the word small is I'm thinking incremental. But let's get rid of the word small. I changed my mind. I don't think I like that. Evaluate a change to the status quo. The reason I use the word change, I'm just going to now implement here an incremental kind of 1 unit change. Incremental 1 unit change. Let me give you an example why I changed my mind on the small part. Do you guys know Auto University has a campus in Arizona?
Yeah.
So the change to Ottawa University, the way it's run for 150 years, right? So we've been at this for a long time here at Ottawa University, and we decide to open a campus in Arizona. Is that a big change? It's kind of a big deal, right? But it's an incremental change. Like it's this thing that can kind of be analyzed on its own, look at the benefits, look at the costs, you know, is it a good move to try to open up another campus? So that's why I wanted to get rid of small and just think of incremental. 1 unit is a new campus. That could be a big deal. So, example, Arizona campus for OU. Okay, number 5, information. So information will likely help our decision, but it is costly. So gathering information will likely help our decision to become more efficient, but it's costly. Okay, let me give you an example. How does that one hit you? Information gathering, maybe if we wanted to put a little more teeth on this, information gathering will likely help your decision, but it is costly. What does it mean by that? Think about some things with things that you do where, you know, if I would have had more information, maybe you have some regrets. You're like, oh, if I would have had some more information, I might have done something differently. Let's see, Jensen, did you get something you're thinking of?
Say time is money.
Time is money, so give me an example. What do you mean, time? So what are you inferring here with this concept with time?
Well, I was going to say it takes time to gather information, so therefore you're losing time trying to
Good.
sell it.
So just the idea that opportunity cost, right? So if anything that takes time to do is costly for your decision. So if you have to spend some time gathering information, maybe how many of you have spent like a couple hours researching maybe a big purchase you're going to do, like a car or something? Or I do this to my detriment, is I'll study and study, make sure I've got the right thing that I want to do, and make sure there's no other price on the internet anywhere in the world that I could buy it cheaper at, you know, taking shipping costs into account. And so sometimes I look back at what I've done and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have pushed it that hard. I probably could have, you know, I'm saving a penny. I spent $10 to save a penny, and here I am, the economist, trying to teach that. So that's one that can sometimes be elusive, but it's important. That gathering information takes time. So takes time and resources that could be used elsewhere. So we're right back to our opportunity cost, right? Time and resources that could be used elsewhere. Number 6. So beyond their initial effect, economic events often cause secondary events or secondary effects. Secondary effects that may take time to learn. So beyond their initial effect, economic events often cause secondary effects that may take time to learn. So part of the reason we do economic reasoning is to not just get the first effect, but what else might be going on. Does that resonate with anybody on initial effect of something versus secondary effects that might take a little time to figure out. Jensen, give me a number between 3 and 7. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give me your name again. I'm almost there from personal finance. Colton. Colton, what do you think about, let's take about COVID. I'm going to give you a little bit of an example since we're all dealing with COVID in various ways. Beyond their initial effect, what would be some secondary events? If you want to think about COVID, what's gone on, we've had lockdowns, we've had masks, we've had vaccines, we've had lots of different things going on. I think that serves as a pretty good example. Anything coming to mind with COVID for you, Colton?
Masks, vaccines, and sometimes test taking, as well as...
So let's just go with masks for a second. So what would be the initial effect? You guys need to wear a mask. What's the initial effect?
You have to go out and buy a mask.
Got to go out and buy a mask. Okay, good. So there's some money expense, but those are almost free. So that's not too big of a deal, let's say. But that's an effect of a change in your behavior. But why are we being told we should or must wear a mask in the case of mandates? What's the scientists saying that, hey, if you wear a mask, you know, what's not happening? What's the benefit of a mask? Is the claim.
Less likely to get COVID.
Less likely to get COVID, okay, and less likely to transmit if you are, right? So part of the reason we're wearing a mask is things coming in and snot going out, right? So, secondary effects. Let me open up the floor. Secondary effects. Is it Augie?
Yeah. So we went to quarantine and everybody was to stock up on everything. Not everybody got stuff. It's like a shortage of stuff in stores.
Okay, so a shortage of stuff in stores. Now, that would be a little bit maybe more outside of the mask part. I kind of wanted to concentrate on masks, right? I mean, am I right in reading that? I mean, you're right. That would be some secondary effects of like lockdowns, right? Shortages of stuff that we're experiencing now. Definitely. So, Jordan?
Restaurants changing the way they give out orders.
Okay. Restaurants changing the way they get orders and give them out. So we thought, oh, let's have the mask because we don't want spit going in or out. But then what happens with the process of everything? Some of those secondary effects were hard to predict, like what that would look like, right? Okay, let me go to the far back. What's your name?
Rich.
Rich?
Mandates and rules.
Mandates and rules. Okay, what do you mean? So you're giving another example outside of mask. Let me just stick with mask, and I want to come back to you, Rich, for a sec. Is anybody? Go ahead, Justice. You got something?
Didn't it cause like almost a divide too, because a lot of people were saying like.
Okay. So Justice is bringing up division among people with, do these things work? Did some scientists come out and say that the mask is giving you false security? Right? Unless you had the N95 or whatever, the special mask that like doctors and physicians wear, this thing is just window dressing, right? And so do some people not wash their mask very good? Could they possibly getting sick from all the crap that they're breathing in? I've heard about little kids maybe having problems with not getting enough oxygen, or when you guys were athletes out on the field having to wear a mask and not getting enough oxygen to your brains. I mean, there's just lots of other little things that kind of came out after the fact. So the initial effect might have been, oh, let's keep people safe, wear a mask, you're not breathing in, breathing out. But there's these other effects that were hard to maybe measure later, or hard to get our arms around. Okay, Rich, I want to come back to you. Mandates, go ahead, what were you thinking?
So like with all these new mask rules and stuff like that, like they said you're told to wear a mask, and then all these restaurants and stores are making you wear a mask inside the door, and you're not.
Yeah. So then that caused their restaurant or place to be harmed.
Or lose it.
Is that the secondary or lose business? Okay. Good. Yes. Name?
Sam.
Sam.
I was gonna say a secondary effect would be like, for the reason of wearing a mask, that you need a back card. If you don't have a back card, you can't get in. So then the business become virtual. But now the business become virtual to the point where a lot of people are not flying out when bus got business anymore. So like you said, it creates a loss of
Yeah, good. So, the list goes on and on for that. That's just one thing, but that's what economists are kind of specialists in, is that we study human behavior with changes. And so a politician comes up with some sort of thing like, let's do a lockdown. Nobody can go out of their house. And so it's like, okay, well, that sounds like we're doing it because we all want to be safe and not give this potential disease to everybody. But then economists are back there thinking, okay, well, wait a second. If we shut the economy down for a week, that's probably not too bad. We all have our jobs back after a week, maybe 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks shutdown, maybe we have that. But what are we in now? 2-year shutdown, right? And so as it started to go on, eventually they started saying, well, what's the impact to the economy? And then what was the impact to Walmart and Amazon? Did they like the shutdown or hate the shutdown? Walmart and Amazon. They liked it. How about mom and pop shop on Main Street? They hate it, right? So all of a sudden we get back to that distribution stuff with rationing. How did the government decide, mom and pop, you're shut down, but Walmart, go for it? Jeff Bezos, richest guy in the world, keep chugging along, you're our savior now, right? So government sanctioned them, right? The government chose how to ration those goods or those operators, those suppliers, on who got to be open and who didn't get to be open. So the market mechanism was taken out of play and replaced with a political mechanism, right? So that's just a different way, and then we can analyze the outcomes of that and see how it shook out. Sam?
Is this right, for the secondary effect for all the small pop businesses for the government, they created a PPP loan, right?
Yeah.
So now it infuses with investing money into other small stores that maybe not be existing, so now they're losing money, right?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because so the government created these little loans, little safety nets for mom and pop, and then it turned into early on, you guys might not know this, it was a first come, first serve basis. So there was a limited amount of money. Mom and pop were used to flipping burgers and making pizzas on Main Street, and now they had to fill out these forms to say how many employees you got and how is this hurting you and what's your revenues, all that stuff. So we're kind of diverting resources in different ways, right? When we ended up putting that into place, and it was a kind of a first come, first serve basis. So, okay, let's move on to number 7. We're almost home free here. Number 7. I'm gonna do some marker refill here. All right, number 7, we've talked about a little bit today even. The value of a good is subjective. And varies with an individual's preferences. The value of a good is subjective. So with this one, we, is it Emily? Are you Emily? Yeah. Okay, we used Emily's water bottle. You got the water bottle today? Yeah. Oh, there's the water bottle. So that's when we talked about how we value things, right? So the value of any particular good or service, this is a GNS here, by the way, GNS. I like to sneak in services so that we're not always thinking physical goods. That is subjective. And so people have, your values vary from time to time. So your value, for example, I'll tell you one that just happened to me last night. I found out I valued antifreeze at $15.96. So Russ's value of antifreeze. So I didn't even look at what it can buy, but I remember at least a long time ago, you could buy antifreeze for $7 to $10 or something, right? So my check engine low coolant light comes on. I was fishing, and I was coming back with my boat, and I was 40 miles out. I was at Melbourne, which is about 35 minutes away. And I'm like, should I drive to Ottawa? It's probably fine. I have coolant at my house, right? And I'm like, I'm just gonna kick myself if I don't go. I was low on gas also, so I'm like, I'm gonna go to the gas station and I might as well do the coolant too. And so I figured, a convenience store versus Walmart, they're gonna jack it up a little bit. So I'm pulling out my wallet. I pay cash with stuff. Those of you who take my personal finance class, you'll learn why. So I'm getting I got $2 out, and then I got $5 out, and I saw I had a 10 in there, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I might have to pull into this 10, but maybe it's 7 or a little bit over $5. Okay, sir, is this all for you? Yes, that'll be $15.96. I'm like, what? I literally said, what? Are you kidding me? And so I had a value of that antifreeze of at least 15. Honestly, if she would have told me 18, I wasn't willing to risk my truck, right, on a 35-minute drive home. So the value of antifreeze changed for me in that moment. Normally, I would have valued it at, whatever. You need it, but in my mind over the years, since I've been driving for a long time, somewhere around $5 to $10. I figured that was the range. So, but I bought it is the point. Did I have to buy it? No, I could have. I'd say chances are really good that I probably would have made it back to Ottawa and then been able to fill there. Of course, I took my half-empty antifreeze, went down to my basement and found 3 other jugs down there. I'm like, I didn't want to have to use resources there that I didn't have to, but there you go. So Russ's antifreeze. Let's see. So coolant light on. And purchased for $15.96 when normally 5 to 10, $5 to $10 new, or worse yet, free at home with 3 other half full jugs. All right. So, same thing for you guys. We did a show of hands last time. Have you ever felt like you got a deal when you purchase something at Walmart or online or on eBay? And we've all gotten deals for things. And so that plays into our valuation. And that's a theme that we will pick up later on in the course when we start talking about price discrimination. Ooh, discrimination. Yes, we talk about discrimination. Charging different prices for different people. Kind of a fun topic, but the only reason that you can do that is because people value things differently, and that's okay, right? You like peanuts in your M&Ms and I don't, right? We're all different. And so that ends up, those differences manifest themselves in the market in different ways. All right, the last one, number 8, is the test of an economic theory. The test of an economic theory is its ability to predict and explain previous and future events in the real world. And so hopefully you're picking up that I'm big on bringing the real world into this classroom because economics is all around us. It's everywhere. Unlimited wants and limited resources are everywhere. And so we're going to have theories that you're going to learn. Like the law of demand is going to be coming up pretty soon. You increase the price, what happens? Do people buy more or less of the good? Less, right? So that's an economic theory, but do we know that for sure? Well, what we do here is we go out into the real world and we can look to see how people behave. You know, is it true when a company lowers their price that they actually sell more of their good, right? And we can collect data and either support or refute that with empirical analysis of the way the real world actually works. All right, let's see here. Here's my other sheet. All right, so that's our 8 guideposts. So the last thing I want to leave on here with this section is the positive versus normative explanation. So what were we on? 3 before, so this is number 4 now, I think. I remember right. So positive versus normative economics. So positive ways to describe stuff. The sky is blue. The earth is made of marshmallows. Let's take those two, A and B. Both of those are positive statements about the world. They're claims. They're positive claims about the world. The sky is blue, the earth is made of marshmallows. So, which one's BS and which one's not? Marshmallows BS or the blue sky? Marshmallows. Okay, so the point with all this is that now the test of an economic theory, which is usually a positive statement about the way the world works, we're going to go out into the real world and collect data. Now that data might be your eyeballs looking up and seeing that the sky is blue day after day after day. You've been looking at the sky for 18 years now. Some days it looks gray with an overcast, but the sky seems to be blue, right? And then we can get deeper into meteorologists and saying, why is the sky blue? And chemists and physics and all of that stuff. And we can test that indeed the sky is blue for some sort of reasons, right? So that's the testing part here. The earth is made of marshmallows. That's testable too. What do we need to do? What can we do to test that claim? Some wackadoo out there says the earth is made of marshmallows. Jensen?
Grab a soil sample.
Grab a soil sample, start digging, right? And so we know what marshmallows look like, or we have to kind of define what a marshmallow is, right? And then we take samples. We take samples in India. We take samples in Europe. We take samples in the United States. We go down 10 feet. We go down 1,000 feet. And we can prove that that claim is wrong. All right, so that's the positive part of this stuff. Now, normative statements look something like this. The sky should be pink. The earth ought to be made of marshmallows. Are those right or wrong? How do we test those? You can't. They're not testable. So that's kind of setting the stage of the difference between economics. All people should have access to health care. Is that right or wrong? Now we see where the fights on the internet come from, right? And Facebook, right? So you start having an opinion about something. Wouldn't it be great if the earth was made of marshmallows? maybe we can have a debate on why you like marshmallows, but there's no right or wrong answer, right? It's not a testable a statement or a testable claim. So some of the things we talk about, let me just put on here that economics, the focus of economics lives over here. Economics is going to be able to analyze maybe like if somehow we could force the sky to be pink, and then what would be the first and the initial and secondary effects of that on people. Like, maybe would that cause people to go crazy or something? I don't know. But this stuff is more on politics and everyday life. I mean, we all kind of do this, but this is a little bit more on, in terms of economics, the political side, on what using the words like should and ought to be. And so there's a lot of this going on with the spewing of words back and forth on Twitter and Facebook and all social media and other places. There's a lot of this going on, and now we kind of see why. Yeah, you're not even making a statement that I can test to see if it's false or not, right? But sometimes there might be, we should do this, and then they actually do this, and then we see the results of whether that theory or that thing, whether that claim was right or not. Okay, so questions on positive or normative? All right, so the thing I want to end on today is some of the mechanics of that production possibilities frontier that we did last time with Tom and Jen on the island. Which one of these has ink? I gotta start loading up my markers again. So the production possibilities frontier, the PPF. The production possibilities frontier shows the maximum combination of two goods an economy can produce given its available resources and technology. Given its available resources and technology. Okay, so it kind of says something like this. Give me a good, any good, first thing that comes to mind?
Hamburger.
Hamburger. Quantity of hamburger. And somebody else give me a good, any good, any good, any good? Fries. Okay. That's the first thing. So with the production possibilities frontier, we're going to imagine an economy that we're only looking at hamburger and fries, and we'll just assume that those are the only two goods. So what is the maximum combination of these two goods it could produce? So it only has a certain amount of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. If we devote all of those resources to hamburger production, let's suppose we can have 100. And if we now instead devote all of the resources in the economy, everything imaginable, to fry production, we can produce 800 fries. Okay, now, we could be somewhere in between. And so here's my challenge to you, is the production possibilities frontier could take on a number of things. I'm just going to give you 3 of them. 3 possible shapes of the production possibilities frontier. So let's call this shape A, B, or C. If you think about the trade-offs that are going on, I have to give up some fries to get some more hamburgers. Which shape do you think it is? A, B, or C? A, B, or C? Or is there one that you'd like to eliminate? Would you eliminate one? Yes, Noah.
See?
What'd you, extra credit point, even if you got the wrong answer. Noah, what's your last name?
Lang.
Lang. All right, Noah says C. All right, so C. Why?
Well, the curve, it just looks like it's going up.
It just looks like it's going good. That's fine. Yeah, we're just learning this stuff, so that's cool. I'm just curious what your motivations were for picking C. Let's just kind of talk about A. So if we did A and we started at point, I guess I'm going to do X. So X is this endpoint here. If we start at point X and we move to point Y, so we're getting a little bit of food, and we're moving this way, giving up a lot of fries, it looks like. Let's just call it, I want to do 4, so 300. So we gave up 500 fries to get, where are we at here? There's 50, just making up some numbers here, 30. So that would be the trade-off, right? We gave up 500 fries to get 30, but we could transform them back into 800 fries. That would be a production possibility. Now let's take this point here on B, and again, just making up some numbers, right? Let's just say this is 600. So at 600 is B, and then we've got Noah's, and he's at 750. So we've got all of the resources going into the production of fries here at 800, and nothing going into hamburgers. So tell me about what's a resource that goes into hamburgers? If you make a hamburger, what's a input to make? What's one of the key inputs to making a hamburger?
Seasoning.
Seasoning. Good. What else? Ground beef. Yeah, ground beef and seasoning. That's the way they can mix it up. So when we're using ground beef to make French fries, is that a good way to use ground beef? Or using buns to make French fries, using tomatoes to make French fries, lettuce, mayo. We haven't gone through all the ingredients, but are we getting a lot of extra fries out of using ground beef, lettuce, tomato, mayo? No, so some of those resources are really way better used for hamburgers than they are French fries. So now, which one most reflects that, A, B, or C, that it would be, you don't have to give very much fries at all to get a lot of hamburgers, because now we can use ground beef for hamburgers rather than making fries. We can use lettuce for making hamburgers rather than using it for fries. We can use mayo and seasoning for hamburgers instead of making it for fries. Which one best reflects that, A, B, or C? Is Noah onto something here with C? So I give up a little bit of fries and I get a whole bunch of hamburgers, because now I don't have to use ground beef to make fries. So that makes hamburgers pretty cheap, right? I freed up some resources that were better suited for hamburger production as opposed to fry production. So Noah, you're absolutely correct. C is the right answer. It's going to look like this, that we're going to do that. Now, what happens when we get up here? Now I'm starting to use fryer grease to make hamburgers. And now I'm using resources that are better used for fries to try to make extra hamburgers. It don't work so well. So you give up a lot of fries to get almost maybe next to nothing in hamburgers. We'll pick up there tomorrow. So make sure you get online, get your mind tap going. Hold on one sec. Let me go to you guys online. So Jonathan, I got to get your guys' attendance. So where's the, did I get the attendance sheet? Yeah, I did. Okay.
Beyonce, I'm right here.
Yeah, I ain't get the attendance sheet either.
I ain't
So Jonathan, were you on, did you send me an email? Were you one of the ones that emailed? Or, so you had a medical excuse or something, or I just didn't remember? Okay, gotcha. No problem. And Mason, I got yours earlier, so that's cool. And Jackson, you got a video?
Yeah, I heard about it. I'm just not feeling the best shirt, looking the best shirt now.
Okay. In
like,
general,
you
I do
go on
require the
Blackboard right
video.
now,
I do
and,
require
like,
the
to-
video to be on
like,
for
the
using
resource
Zoom.
conversation, he got
But
all
so
these
you
old
sent me
videos on
something
there,
too?
Like from years ago and shit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, got you guys marked down. You're all set.
Blackboard, bro. He said no.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So, questions?
I didn't get the attendance sheet.
Oh, it didn't even get sent around to you guys?
This is my first day.
Oh, yeah,
I got confused with my schedule. I got my schedule really late.
Okay.
Because I just got here.
Did you get one of these?
No, I haven't got it.
Okay, so you came in a little bit late today
Yeah.
too. All right, so 8:55. Okay, you're new too. So we got a homework. Did you just add or just didn't make it the first couple days or?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so make sure. Did you guys get those recordings?
Do I need a pen?
So I sent them out to the whole class.
this?
You just, yeah, just to sign. So make sure you go back and look at, I went over the whole homework thing, the first homework's due tonight. You can go in, you link to it from Blackboard, so make sure you've gone into Blackboard and press the MindTap link. If you buy it from the OU bookstore, then you can put it like on your U-bill.
Sign it. You got about what?
It's the required materials for the class.
Oh, this right here?
Yeah, so make sure you guys do this right now. I would today, because it's, your first one's due tonight.
Week 1, the first.
Yeah, we're in week 1, so this class is ram bam, man. So we're like 8 weeks. So we're chapters 1 and 2. I sent out the recordings already that you asked about, so those should be in your inbox. So make sure you try to find those.
Blackboard, right?
Yeah, on Black. No, the video recordings were sent on an email.
Oh,
So look on that for the email. But then get into MindTap and press the button. You can pay with a card or debit card on site, or go to the bookstore right now and get the access code. And you can put it on your U-bill. That you can charge it to your U-bill. Yeah, you have to have the access code. That's all the required materials. 80% of the points, homework tests are all there. So, all right, you guys do it. Can you what? I would just order it. See, it might be the wrong one. Did you look to, because there is one-term access. Well, this looks pretty good, actually. That might.
Is it the correct one? I'm not sure.
It's 17th edition. Oh, this is 16th edition. It's the old version.
Okay,
So yeah, it does have to be 17th edition.
Okay.
Because that'll get us into it. So,
Okay.
sorry, I was kind of optimistic like that. That
I know,
could
it looked like
possibly
it.
happen. I think the way this stuff works with the publisher and the bookstores is it's either bookstore or publisher. But there is a one-term, but you do have to take macro still?
Yeah.
Okay, so buy the more expensive one because that gets you 2 terms. You'll have macro for free then.
Okay, so the one at the bookstore is the bulk.
Yeah. And you can purchase it online though too. You can do it that way if you want. But make sure you get the 2-term choice.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have the tutorial. Yeah, we had macro.
Okay, so you are in the right system,
And it's
right?
already
That's what I wanted to make
about-
sure that you were in mind. What do you mean the tutorial?
Well, like the thing that's due tonight.
Oh, that should be here. Okay, collapse all, expand all, right there.
Oh, it's just the.
It's
getting
just these,
started?
yeah, just these
Oh,
three.
okay. So
Yep.
they're already
I
in
feel
week
that.
one?
Yep,
Oh, okay.
it's all on the week one.
Yeah, cause it says
How
it's
you
not
doing?
due, this
Good.
one's due.
Sam.
So you're Sam, nice to
Yes,
meet
sir.
you.
Nice to meet
Is this
you
your
too.
first class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you get a syllabus?
I did it, that's what I was
All right, yeah, you came in a little late today, so you guys do your best to get here on time.
Yes,
It's
sir.
just, this class, you saw what happened today, that's what it's gonna be,
sir.
and we move fast. So tonight's homework is due, did you overhear me talking to these guys? Cause they were in the same boat.
I actually checked the syllabus online, I saw that his homework was due.
Yeah. So, but the thing where you do your homework is called Mind Tap. And so I sent out recordings to the whole class from Monday and Tuesday's class that you guys missed.
Okay.
So you could go back there if you want to check out, what I took a lot, 50 minutes worth of time kind of explaining everything on the syllabus. So watch that recording, and then otherwise, either go to the bookstore right now and buy it. You can put it on your U-bill to get the access code. And it does cover micro and macro, so it's kind of a 2-for-1 special. It's
So
a two-term.
It's the same as like when we were in personal finance, the same type of.
Similar, yeah. It's a totally different system, but yes, same
So
concept.
the textbook's an online textbook.
Yeah, yep. And all the homework problems and tests. Yeah, kind of similar to personal
I was
finance.
about to say, cause you can't just buy a book.
Right. Yep.
How much?
But the good news is it's kind of a 2-for-1 special because you're going to get micro and macro.
The school's going to take care of you for the whole, like, let you buy the book on, like,
It's on your U-bill, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can buy it right after you press the link on, and make sure you log in through Blackboard because that's the link that gets you to our class.
Yep.
And then there is a pay window there that you can do with credit or debit card if that's easier. So either our bookstore or doing it that way.
All right, thank you, appreciate
Okay,
it.
all right. See you tomorrow. Yes. And what? Let me stop this.
To, like,